Hello Internet, I'm Hazel and this is a look at the changes to Shadow Priests in the Warlords of Draenor Beta. We'll go over pruned abilities, spell changes, the new level 100 talents, and how the spec currently feels in beta. This information is from build 18850 and is subject to change with future builds. We'll start by going over abilities that are no longer available to you as a Shadow Priest, some of which have been removed from the game entirely. Spiritual Precision has been removed. Seeing as hit and hit capping has also been removed, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Binding, Heal, and Renew are now only available to Holy Priests. No more Renew in Shadow form for you! Hymn of Hope is gone. It's okay, I can't really sing anyways. Void Shift has been removed, a sad thing for Arena Priests. Inner Fire and Inner Will have both been removed. This will solve my problem where I constantly forget to reapply Inner Fire. Fiend has been removed. I can't say that I ever tried it, but I'm sure that someone, somewhere is going to miss it. Next, let's look at the changes and adjustments to spells that we're keeping. Periodic damage and healing effects now dynamically recalculate their damage, healing, critical chance, multipliers, and period on every tick. This means that there is no longer a massive benefit to recasting your dots during a big stat proc. One less thing to worry about. Also related to dots, it's going to be easier for you to avoid clipping your dots. Everyone can now refresh their periodic effects anywhere in the last 30% of the duration for full benefit and no lost tick time. Excellent. All classes, priests included, now automatically learn some of their major glyphs as they level. Recipes for these glyphs have been removed. See the description below this video for a full list of the automatically learned priest glyphs. Our Shadow Priest Mastery, Shadowy Recall, has been replaced with a new mastery called Mental Anguish. This increases the damage of Mind Blast, Mind Spike, Mind Flay, and Mind Seer by 20%. The hope here is that it makes Shadow Priest more competitive for both single target DPS and situations where dots just don't make sense. Dominate Mind and Psychic Horror now share diminishing returns with all other Mesmerize effects. Psychic Scream is now a level 15 talent, replacing Fiend, and it now has a 45-second cooldown, up from 30 seconds. Void Tendril's root effect now has a chance to break if the target takes sufficient damage. The tendrils now have 10% of the priest's health, down from 20%, and damage dealt to the rooted target is now also dealt to the Void Tendril itself. At this point, I'd just pick Psychic Scream instead. Devouring Plague now always costs 3 Shadow Orbs and now heals the priest for 2% of maximum health per tick, up from 1%. Now, there's also a line in patch notes stating that Devouring Plague heals the priest for 100% of all damage it deals instead of healing per tick, which sounds contradictory. In the present beta build, it does still heal per tick, so take that as you will. Shadow Form no longer allows any healing spells to be cast, but also no longer has a restriction on casting other holy spells. Shadow Fiend no longer restores mana, and Mindbender now only restores 0.75% mana per hit, down from 1.75% mana. Dispersion and Vampiric Touch also no longer restore mana. However, the base mana regeneration rate for Shadow Priests has been increased by 200%. Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch have also had their mana cost cut in half. Mana probably won't be a problem for you. Shadow Word Pain's initial damage is now considered direct damage rather than periodic damage. This means that Shadowy Apparitions and Shadowy Insight are no longer able to proc from that initial direct damage. Vampiric Embrace now heals all party and raid members for 10% of damage done, and this healing is no longer split between targets. This is a big change from before, when it healed for 75% of damage done but split between targets. Cascade, Divine Star, and Halo have all had their mana cost reduced by 67%. Divine Star and Halo will now follow standard AoE capping rules, and none of these spells will heal your allies. Mind Blast's cooldown is now reduced by haste, but its base cooldown is now 9 seconds, up from 8 seconds. This should help to make haste an even more valuable stat for us. Surge of Darkness, which is the free mind spikes that you get from the From Darkness Comes Light talent, now has a maximum of 3 charges, up from 2, and can now also trigger its effect from Devouring Plague. But its chance to trigger has been reduced to 10%, down from 20%. Power Infusion now grants 25% haste, up from 20%. but no longer increases damage, down from a 5% damage increase. Insanity has been changed to cause consuming shadow orbs to transform your mind flay into insanity for 2 seconds per shadow orb consumed. It works out to be roughly the same effect as before, except now you can cast that mind flay on any target you like. Twist of Fate now only triggers from damage for Shadow Priests and will no longer trigger from any healing you do. Angelic Feathers now increases movement speed by 60%, down from 80%. However, if cast on players, it will always prefer the casting priest over others. If you aren't near it, it will work as normal. Additionally, when collecting multiple feathers, the duration will be extended instead of replaced, up to a maximum of 130% of the base duration. The speed nerf sucks, but I think that overall this is going to be a better and less frustrating tool to work with. The Mind Quickening passive buff now also grants 5% multi-strike. Prayer of Mending now has a 1.5 second cast time, up from instant cast. The Shadow version of the Divine Insight talent is now named Shadowy Insight. That's all, that's the whole change. Let's talk about your options for a level 100 talent in Warlords. Clarity of Power. This talent makes your non-dot damage much stronger. It causes your Mind Spike, Mind Seer, and Shadow Word Death to deal 40% more damage to any target not affected by your Shadow Word Pain or Vampiric Touch. Your Mind Blast will also be instant cast and have a reduced cooldown. I can see this being really useful in certain PvP situations, and it definitely complements the new mastery. Void Entropy. This is a very, very long dot. It costs 3 Shadow Orbs to apply, lasts for 1 minute, and its duration is refreshed when you cast Devouring Plague. This seems like a great talent for raiding or whenever you've got a big fat boss that's going to live for a while. And Auspicious Spirits. This is a nice passive talent that gives you more throughput without changing your playstyle too much. It causes your shadowy apparitions to grant you a Shadow Orb rather than dealing direct damage. It adds another layer of RNG to your life, which some people will enjoy to keep things interesting. We'll see what the numbers parse out to be for the best talents once final adjustments are made and Warlords of Draenor goes live. Playing a Shadow Priest in the Warlords Beta was fun. As in, considering jumping class and doing nothing else for the rest of my Warcraft days fun. Unlike some other classes, things haven't changed so much as to give you that lost feeling of not knowing what you're doing. The basic feel of your rotation hasn't changed drastically from where it was in Mists, but the new quality of life improvements make things feel a lot smoother. The changes to dot refreshing and angelic feathers are particularly refreshing. I chose to play around with both the Auspicious Spirits and Divine Insight talents, which just gave me shadow orbs like candy. It felt like an evil purple version of Christmas. In my opinion, this spec is one of the most interesting and visually compelling ranged specs out there. The talents seem to be balanced enough that you can pick a playstyle that you really like without losing much damage. All in all, I'm kind of in love. It's a problem. And that's what Shadow Priests are like in the Warlords of Draenor Beta. Check out my channel for other spec overviews, Warlords Beta content, and other gaming videos if you're into that kind of thing. Let me know what you think and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye!